When you think of a fascinator, do you think of one of those small, perched, sometimes very colorful, hat-like head decorations? So did I, until I was browsing through an 1890s fashion magazine and I came across a page of fascinators, which looked more like these woolen shawl-like head wraps. I was quite intrigued because it seemed to me that Victorian fascinators were very different from the modern fascinators, except in one way: both of them can sometimes be incredibly eye-catching. I was also a little bit curious on when the term fascinator switched from its Victorian definition to more of its modern definition. I didn't get an exact answer on this. If you know, please let me know. But what I did find is that as recent as 1940, I found a knitting pattern book of fascinators that had the original Victorian definition for fascinator. I also thought, wouldn't this be the perfect item to make for my 1890s walking ensemble that's meant to be worn on a very cold day to keep my head and neck very nice and warm. I turned back to my 1892 copy of The Art of Knitting and I found a fascinator pattern that I really liked. So I took the pattern, my needles, and yarn with me to work on while I was on a road trip. I'm using the yarn that I had previously dyed using Dyer's Woad. It is Knit Picks Simply Wool in worsted weight. The fascinator is begun at the widest part and narrowed in order to create a triangular shape. This is actually a really nice road trip project, as you just have to knit a garter stitch the whole time, narrowing at every other end. As you might have heard me cover in my Getting Started with Historical Knitting video, knitting gauge in antique patterns is actually really hard to come by, but this one in particular was really puzzling to me because I found it pretty hard to hit gauge using reasonable size needles for this pretty thick yarn. I decided to go ahead and spend a few hours knitting this on a road trip anyway, just to see what size it would turn out. After a few hours of on and off knitting, I was done with the fascinator technically. I cast on the required 93 stitches and I decreased at every other end 2 stitches, and I wore it in the way that I saw in the illustrations, with the point facing towards the front over the top of my head, but I don't think it actually looks close to the illustrations at all. So I think I need to go up either in stitch count or in needle size. I could also go up in yarn size, but I really want to use this particular hand-dyed yarn for this project, so I'm going to go up in needle size and in stitch counts, I think. Once I got back home, I decided to go up to a 10mm needle and increase my stitch count by about 50%. After I finished my fascinator, I went ahead and measured it again, and the pattern called for 46.5 inches in width, and I have 47.5, and it called for 12 inches in height, and I have 13 inches. So I would say it's approximately correct. Maybe if you were recreating this pattern, you should go down a needle size or half a needle size just to get it exactly right. But I actually really like how this one turned out, and I had to undo a bit of work, but thankfully this fascinator is a pretty quick knit. While I decided not to add the fringed border to the bottom of my cape, I saw that a lot of fascinator patterns from the 1890s had a lot of frilly, fringy details, so I thought it was quite important for the fascinator to have that frilly fringe. So I used a crochet hook as suggested in the pattern to create a crochet chain and create loops of fringe all the way around the fascinator. Something that also really stuck out to me in the fascinator drawings is that all the women had the very typical 1890s hairstyle with the fluffy bangs in front. So I wanted to style my hair the right way to try on my fascinator, so I cut off my bangs. I'm just kidding. I decided to go a different route. I curled my bangs and tried my best to pin them so that they looked shorter than they really are, in order to kind of emulate an 1890s hairstyle. I tried my best to recreate it. I don't think it looks fantastic, but I hope it's at least close enough for the effect that I'm going for. I am finished knitting and crocheting my 1890s fascinator. I think this will make a fantastic addition to my 1890s winter ensemble. I think if it was a chilly morning in 1892, this would be a fantastic thing to wrap around my head. And the entire ensemble is so close to being finished. The last thing that I would want to wear before stepping out of the house on a cold day is a warm pair of mittens. So I will be showing you that next time. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you'll stick around so that you can see me finish out this ensemble.